Hello and welcome to the first of hopefully many episodes of my Flosstube and crafting channel, Crafting on the Plains. My name is Jacintha. Thank you so much if you or anybody is watching this right now. This is a Flosstube and crafting channel about cross stitch and other crafty endeavors that I get up to, such as sewing, quilting, knitting, and any other crafty things that I become obsessed with along the way. I have been a long time Flosstube lurker, and I decided that it looked really fun to try to share some of my projects and join the community. So, like I said, my name is Jacintha. I live in Oklahoma. I live in a little bit east of the central part of Oklahoma, which is why this channel is called Crafting on the Plains. I am actually an attorney and a college professor, so I have a little bit of extra time in the summer to start this channel. And I live in my home. I live with my husband, my daughter, who is 4 years old, and also 2 cats. So if you hear any strange noises or any jostling, it's probably cats, because if you have cats, you know that they love to make an appearance at the most inconvenient times. I'm going to go ahead and just get started with the crafting. I'm going to start with stitching. I'm going to do my best to put some timestamps in the description box, so in case you're interested or not super interested in anything that I'm talking about, you can jump around to what you want to see. So my first thing that I want to show you are some fully finished objects that I did recently, and these go together. So these are my finishes. They are both from Primrose Cottage's The Flags on the 4th series. So, and I believe it's the second release of Flags on the 4th. So, and it's a great value to buy those charts, because these both, as well as I think at least one other small chart, came with the Flags on the 4th second release. So, because I actually thought I was just getting this one, and which these are both inspired by quilt blocks, and then I also got this one and another one that I haven't stitched yet. And I stitched these on 32 count Grandma's Slip by XJU Design. I just had a little scrap piece and they were perfect for it. And the colors that I used, I just grabbed what I had from Stash, and these are the colors. This is sort of my go-to, like, patriotic color palette. So I have just DMC Blanc. These are on some floss bobbin drops that my brother actually made for me. He has a 3D printer and he is also very crafty in a different way. And then I have DMC 309 and Classic Colorworks Old Blue Jeans. And that's just, I've made a lot of my patriotic stitches, patriotic smalls, in these 3 colors, because they just, I think, make a really cute vintage kind of prim looking patriotic. So what I actually did was I finished these according to the Primrose Cottage's bound pillow tutorial. So I stitched them and then I bound them. The difference is that I did not add a fabric border around the pillow, because I wanted them to be really teeny so they fit in a dough bowl. And so I just bound it straight onto the linen. And I did this one, and I didn't have any felt that I thought coordinated, so I just added some little scraps that I put some heat and bond on and then pinked the edges so that they wouldn't fray and they'd look a little bit more prim and cute, and just heat and bonded them onto the back. So there's this one. And this fabric here, these scraps came from like Joann Fat Quarters years ago. And this was actually a curtain that I picked up at Goodwill several years back. And I've been slowly working through these yards and yards of curtain, adding it to projects. And this one is actually finished the exact same way. I just didn't, I thought as I was binding it, I hand bound the back because I like to do that. But as I was binding it, I thought it looked really cute as just like a little mini quilt. And so I had this clip frame from Michael's that came unfinished in their unfinished wood section, and I had a couple years ago just like dry brushed it with some off-white paint. So I just clipped it there, and I think it looks really cute. Maybe one day I'll go ahead and cut the back and fill it up, but I thought it was another cute way to style that. So that's my fully finished. I have one recent finish, and it's also a patriotic stitch. I don't normally stitch this one's patriotic, but I guess I was inspired this year. So this is my, bear with me as I learn how to floss tube. This is the Red, White, and Bloom by Cherry Hill Stitchery. This was part of the summer Flossiversary sale by Nicole Spohr, and I didn't enter to win prizes or anything because I actually started my chart really, really late. But I'd had this chart in my Etsy wish list for so long, and I thought this was just the perfect excuse to go ahead and start it. And I didn't think I would finish it, but actually I finished this chart literally on the 4th of July. So I think it was like 20 minutes before we left to go watch fireworks. I was putting in the last stitches, so it's really fun. I used mostly the called for, except the little pink in the center of the flowers. I subbed out for DMC 3712 just because the called for, they didn't have it at my Joann's, so I just used a different corally pink. There are a few modifications, customizations in this pattern that were not necessarily intended. The basket is a couple, maybe like one row short. Some of my leaves are not in the 100% correct place. One of my flags is a little bit different than the other one, but you know, I'm still happy with it. No one will know, and it'll be a really cute little small. And I stitched this on 36 count wheat from Fiber on a Whim, and I stitched it 2 strands over 2. I prefer to stitch my 36 count 2 strands over 2, although I will tell you this was pretty tight, so I might, the next time I use this, I got a whole fat quarter of this wheat, and I might actually do 1 strand over 2 on it because it's pretty tight even for me, and I love a pretty good coverage stitch. Okay, so that is all of that's my only recent finish. I will now talk about my cross stitch whips. So my first active whip, I have a few other whips, but my first active whip right now is White Winter Moth by Kathy Barrick, and this is how it's coming. I purchased the PDF from her Etsy, and it actually is Pattern Keeper compatible. So according to Pattern Keeper, I am right at 50% of this thing, and I am fairly certain that this moth itself is about 40% of the stitching. It's big. It's a big one. I was planning on doing about 100 stitches a day on this, just having it be like a morning stitch. I have not necessarily been doing that, but I try. And so it's been coming along. I'm very happy with it. I think it's beautiful, and I'm very excited for it. I'm kind of moth obsessed. I actually have been keeping this in my moth bag from Sheba Designs, and I think I might just always have a moth pattern in this bag. So if you have moth pattern recommendations, please let me know because I'm starting a collection. And I am just using all the called for DMC. It's originally charted in NPI Silk, but she provides a DMC conversion, and it is gorgeous. And I was inspired to stitch this by the Seattle stitcher, Megan, and she was saying on her last Flosstube that she was so surprised because in the cover image of this chart, it looks like it's a lot of blacks and grays, but actually it is this amazing palette of like teals and greens, and I was so happy with it. I mean, it's just amazing. And I'm stitching it up on a 36 count Saltbush by Fox and Rabbit, and I think it looks amazing on this fabric because this fabric's a little bit greeny tinged, and so I think it's looking really good. And I'm also doing 2 strands over 2 on 36 count because I wanted that full coverage for that white moth. The next active whip that I have is my Hade, and it's my very first full coverage, and it's going well. Actually, I think it's not perfect, but again, it's my first one. So this is actually in a project folder that I made myself. It's not perfect. I used Elizabeth Ankin Stitch's project, not her project folder pattern, but it's basically a double project bag. So I just did 2 project bags and added zippers, and then I just bound them together, basically. It's supposed to have a Velcro closure, but the Velcro, I've used this iron-on Velcro before, and it's always stuck really, really well, and it didn't want to stick. I'm wondering if it's because I couldn't get it hot enough because I was ironing through several layers. Not really sure. So I think I might just put some cam snaps on it. I just haven't gotten around to it because I don't take this thing anywhere. It just sits next to my couch, and it doesn't, it just really doesn't need to be super portable, but it contains everything. So in here is my Hade. This is Mini Ravenkin. The artist is Selena Finch, excuse me. And this is where I am. And I have some parked threads, so excuse that, but it is what it is. It's full coverage. So here I am, and I'm really happy with it. I am on the, actually right where that curve, right where the page, right at the fold is the second page. So I'm doing page 2, so this is, page 1 is finished, it's page 2, and I think I'm actually getting into her head, which is really exciting. And you can actually see some detail. You can see there's a bird a little bit, you can see, and then these lines I think are actually like trees, so that's cute. But I really don't know what method I'm doing. I'm parking threads, I'm doing page completion, I'm making it up as I go because this is my first Hade, so I'm working on it. But it's been really, really enjoyable, and I am just a hair over 16%. So this is 16% completed. It's 9 full pages, and then there's 3 little like partial pages that are at the bottom. So very happy with how this is coming along. I was very intimidated. I thought I would never ever do full coverage, but there's been a lot of Flosstubers I've been watching who do a lot of full coverage, and especially Blushing Pink Stitches. I think she's the person that finally just made me say, okay, I have to try it because she's having so much fun with it. And it has been so meditative. There's something nice about not having to worry like how the shape is looking, or just knowing it's a long-term project and just focusing on the one color and one stitch at a time. It's really fun. This is a project I actually have not worked on recently, but it is a plan. I just pulled it out a couple days ago to start working on it again. This is going to be my Christmas in July stitch. I may start another small, but I'm not sure. This is Christmas Bells Sampler by Heartstrings Samplery. And this is an amazing project. An amazing project. I love it. It is being stitched on 36 count Winter Moon by Zweigart. I believe that's Winter Moon. And I am doing 2 strands over 2 on 36. I'm not sure like what percentage I am because I did purchase this online, but I just printed it off. It was before I was using Pattern Keeper. And I love it. I will tell you, this border, I was intimidated by the border because it looks really tedious and difficult and boring, but actually the different motifs, the flowers and the vines are there. It's not one segment that's repeated over and over again. They're each a little bit different, and so it keeps it really interesting. It's beautiful. And I am using my own conversion on this because it is charted also for silks, and I just wanted to create my own conversion. And so I did it in Color and Cotton because I love Color and Cotton. So the color and cottons I am using are the darker red on the flowers is Bing Cherry. The lighter red pinkish color is Old Brick. The darker green is Ivy. The lighter green is Castle Garden. These really don't look that different. I don't even know if you can tell a difference on screen, but they almost just look more variegated, like one extremely variegated floss, which is fine. And then the letters I'm doing in Bracken, which is, I only have a little bit of this left. I will tell you, I'm doing this again, 2 strands over 2 on 36 count, and I have ordered and have somewhere in my stash an extra of the color that I'm using for the words for the quote, because I will need it, and also an extra of the dark green. So if you're doing like 2 over 2 on 32 count, you will definitely need at least one extra. You'll need 2 skeins for the main leaf color and for the words. And then I am actually doing my bells in a DMC étoile, which I have lost the card for, but it's the silver sparkly DMC étoile. No, it's just I have it wrapped up there because I never put it on a floss strap for some reason. And so it's amazing. And it has, of course, the quote from Christmas Bells. And this is one of my favorite Christmas carols. I think it's beautiful. So, and then I am actually doing my bells in a DMC étoile, which I have lost the card for, but it's the silver sparkly DMC étoile. No, it's just I have it wrapped up there because I never put it on a floss strap for some reason. And so it's amazing. And it has, of course, the quote from Christmas Bells. And this is one of my favorite Christmas carols. I think it's beautiful. So, super excited. And that is it for my stitching whips. I do have a teensy bit of stitching haul. I really do not have a ton of haul. I have a stash that's not insubstantial, so I'm really trying to work through it and not purchase things that I don't have an immediate plan for, but occasionally I do. I do stash things. So the only stitching haul I have recently is that I needed a few colors for a pattern. I needed a few overdyes, and I had been hearing really good things about this brand. It's called Stitchy Stuff, and it is an Etsy store. And I'd heard that it was kind of similar to Color and Cotton, and I had been just watching them on Etsy, and I just decided to go ahead and try it. So I purchased a few different colors. I only need maybe like 2 of these, but I wasn't really sure which ones I wanted to use. So I got Stormy Sky, which is a variegated gray. I got Summer Sky. I didn't realize I got 2. They were sky. And it's a variegated light blue. So it's like a sky blue color. I got Wedgwood, which is a little bit more like a denim, like a faded denim color. And I got Watermelon Margarita, which is a very bright pink. This is not coming off during a color. It is like the color of a watermelon. So I picked those up, and I'm looking forward to trying them out. That concludes my stitching. Now I'm going to be talking about my sewing, and some of my sewing is stitching related. So, okay. So my sewing finished object that I brought to show is a project bag. I have been making a lot of project bags recently. And I've been really enjoying it because I have a pretty big stash of just small cuts, like fat quarters, half yards of leftovers, just like different things of fabric that I bought years ago that I didn't have a plan for, and it's a great way to use it up. So I made this project bag. I'm so happy with it. I essentially used a mashup of the Elizabeth Ann Can Stitch project bag tutorial and the Nicole Sporer project bag tutorial. So I used Elizabeth Ann Can Stitch's her measurements, and then I just bound it. And I just interfaced mine with medium weight interfacing. I didn't use a batting. That's what I like. I think it holds up well enough, but it still stacks really flat. So, and then I bound it. So this is a, excuse me if you see some cat hair on this, because like I mentioned, cats. This is a pattern that I picked up at, or a fabric I picked up at Joann's years ago, but it's very much reminds me of Rifle Paper Company, so I loved it. And then the inside is just lined with a blue, and then the binding is just a plain yellow. And I think I actually bought all of this together to make into a knitting project bag several years ago, and then I just never did. And then I just put in a navy blue zipper. I had a navy blue zipper for some reason, I don't know, and so I went ahead and used it. So that's my finished object for my sewing. I have 2 sewing works in progress right now. One of them is another project bag. So this one I have all done, except I haven't sewn down the binding on the back. So it's a similar situation. This one is using all scraps. So all scraps from my scrap bin. I just sort of had a play around one day with them. I don't know if the colors are showing up very good, but I just sort of had a little play around with them one day, and this one's actually like a blue dot. Yeah, just had to play around with them one day and found some that I thought looked good. It's a mix of like blues, greens, grays, and then the top and the back is this blue herringbone, which I think I also bought for some knitting project bags several years ago. And what I did differently is I extended the zipper all the way to the edge. I had previously been putting in little zipper tabs at the sides, but I found that sometimes when I had the full-size paper patterns that they didn't want to go in super easily. So I went ahead and extended my zippers all the way to the side to see if I like that better. I'm nervous about it, but I'm just trying it. And it's just lined with a gray, which is also a curtain from my old house. When we moved, I brought the curtains and put them in my sewing bag to turn into something else. And then the binding is just that same gray. It's just cotton. You can use it, whatever. So, and then I like to hand stitch my binding. It just makes me happy. So I'm going to do it. So I just need to bind it, and then it will be ready to go and put a project into it. My last sewing work in progress is a very, very old, very, very special to me sewing work in progress. So this is also kind of quilting. So it's an English paper piecing piece. So this is it. This is a mat. I don't even know what this is. It's just, it's a small piece. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I am an attorney. And so when I was getting ready to take the bar exam, I spent basically 2 months beforehand just studying all day, every day. And what I did at night, that was in the time period I discovered English paper piecing. And so this was what I did at night for like an hour while I watched TV before I went to bed. So this is my like wind down time after studying for the bar all day. And it's not perfect. I mean, I don't know if you can tell, but there are some seams that you can see. I did not know what I was doing really. It's fine. But it's a very sentimental piece. This was just scraps left over from a quilt that I made as a gift for some family members. And think I like printed the hexes offline onto some like cardstock and cut them out. And yeah, I had no idea what I was doing, but it was just the perfect thing to relax. And this has been sitting in a plastic bag at the bottom of my craft cabinet shelf thing for about 7 years now. And I finally just said, you know what? It deserves a special place in my house because this thing helped me get through the bar exam. So I put some felt, I'm in the middle of sewing it together. I put some felt on the back and I hand quilted. It's not super easy to see, but I hand quilted just around the flowers, nothing fancy. And it's not the best hand quilting either, but no one's really gonna see the back. And then what I'm currently in the process of doing is blanket stitching the back. So I'm blanket stitching the back along the felt, and then I'm just barely nicking inside the actual cotton. So from the front, you can't really see it very well, which is fine. That's what I was going for. And then from the back, obviously you can tell. So this will just be a little matte. Maybe I'll set it down and set some like candles on it, or I don't know, something. But I just wanted to get it done because it didn't deserve to just be sitting for 7 years in a bag. So that is my project, and I am just using some DMC floss to do the back. It happens to be DMC 844 in case you care about the gray floss that I'm using to blanket stitch this old little tiny quilt together. But so that is my sewing. And now I am going to talk. Oh, I do have one little piece of sewing haul. I'm just gonna do the haul that's relevant to each section in that section rather than doing a big haul segment at the end, especially because I don't have that much haul. What I picked up is this fabric, and as I said, my daughter's 4. She's gonna turn 5 here in a couple months, and every year for her birthday, I sew her a birthday dress and I knit her a birthday sweater. And this year she chose a rainbow birthday sweater, and she wanted a rainbow Minnie Mouse dress. So of course I said, where on earth am I gonna get rainbow Minnie Mouse fabric? And I just Googled rainbow Minnie Mouse fabric, and on Joann's they had this. What? So I immediately ran to my Joann's to discover it's temporarily closed because we had some pretty severe storms in our town this spring, and they had some damage, and I think subsequently some flooding or something, I don't know. So they're closed, and so then I panicked, but then I called my mother, and she lives in an area that has a different Joann's. I said, can you please, please, please go to Joann's, because this is part of Joann's limited edition Pride collection. And so I knew once it sold out, it was gone. And so I had her, I was like, can you just run up to your Joann's and buy 2 yards for me, please? So she came through and she picked it up for me. And so I have 2 yards of this, and I'm going to be making a dress for her. I'm hoping to start that kind of soon because in past years I have procrastinated and been literally like sewing on buttons and hemming the dress the morning of her birthday. So I'm gonna try not to do that. I have a couple patterns that I'm gonna choose between to make her dress. Okay, so now I wanna talk about knitting. So I just have 2 knitting works in progress. I don't have any recent finishes. I didn't wanna dig anything out, especially because it is the summer in the South and it's warm. So I'm not wearing a lot of knits. So they're kind of packed away. So my first one is a sock. I like to keep a pair of socks on the go at almost all times just because it's great car knitting, waiting for your oil change knitting, whatever. So this is in a project bag that I made. It's super flimsy. It's one of the first project bags I ever made for knitting, and it doesn't have any lining. So it's not the best, but it works. And this is my sock. I am using the Morning Coffee Sock pattern by Crazy Sock Lady Kay Litton. And here's how it's looking. I don't know how well this color or this pattern is going to show up because my lighting is not the best and this is a very dark color. So I'm doing contrasting heels, cuffs, and toes. You can see my cuff, my heel is like a dark purple. And then this is like a speckled, kind of like maroon shade. And it's like a twist on a 3x1 rib. And it's very enjoyable. I like my socks to be shorties in general. That's just how I like them. I just want them to barely come up to cover my ankle for like a little booty. And that's it. So, yeah. So that's what I'm doing. I have a little bit more of the foot left, and then I'll be doing my toe. And this color, this was a sock set from Dragon Horde Yarn. It's the Bone Runes sock set. And I don't think that each individual color had a name. So this is the main color. Maybe I can figure out a way to get it more shown. It's a very like dark plum with speckles. And then the two contrasts that it came with were this dark purple, which is not going to show up. It's a dark purple. It's much lighter than it's actually. And then this brighter purple. And that's semi-true to color, actually. So really like these. I love to treat myself to a Dragon Horde Yarn sock set. I bought this one this year for my birthday, and I'll probably buy another one for my birthday for myself. Okay, and then my last knitting whip is a sweater for myself. It is the Miserina by Caitlin Hunter, and this is a very slow going sweater. I started this in May, and this is where I am. I did not really look that closely at what the pattern was going to be like before I started it, so it is much more complicated than anticipated. So it's a bright yellow. Oh, that's actually very good. It's a bright yellow with a dark blue purple contrast. So it has a lace section up here, and then it's got cables in between the colorwork sections. And I did not realize that. I didn't know there was lace up at the top. I just didn't really look at the pattern. I saw the colorwork pattern, loved it, thought, oh, I'm fairly fast at colorwork, whatever. And picked it up, and then I realized there's cables, there's lace, there's everything. Oops. This is very difficult to show because it's wanting to roll. I'm at a bad point in it for sharing, but I'm about halfway done with the color work at this point, which is nice. And if anyone cares, these are my floats. And so I'm happy with this. I've started to try to make a point of picking it up more just to get it moved on. I think once I get into the body, it'll be a little bit quicker going. But I am gonna have to set it aside pretty soon because I will need to start working on my daughter's sweater. So the colors in here, this is another Dragon Horde yarn. This is my contrast. This is Dragon Horde yarn, and it was from her Sip and Knit box. It's called Don't Let the Hard Days Win. It's a Court of Thorns and Roses inspired, and it's like a dark blue with a little bit of purple and black. And then this one, I know it's from Apothecary Fibers. I don't know if she sells anymore. I picked this up from her at a fiber festival several years ago, and I'm actually not sure what the base is or what the colorway is, because it was actually, I remember her telling me that it was mislabeled at the festival, but she explained to me what it was and I wanted it, so I bought it. So I bought 2 skeins of this, and so it's a really pretty variegated yellow color. And so if I can find her shop or any information, I'll link it. I'll link everything that I can locate that I've talked about, but I don't have a ton of information on it, so sorry. All right, and then I have my last little bit of haul is knitting related. and it also relates to my daughter's birthday making. I just got yesterday this gigantic box of yarn from Knit Picks because my daughter has chosen a rainbow sweater, and you know, so the main color, I bought the Brava worsted weight, which is a 100% acrylic. I don't love using acrylic. For me, I try to use things that are more natural fibers, wool, but for her, she goes off to preschool and next year pre-K, and she gets stuff on her clothes, and I need to be able to throw it in the washing machine. So it's acrylic for now. She does have some real wool stuff. I do make her wool things, but and I never know how quickly she's going to grow out of stuff, so I don't necessarily want to use like the most expensive stuff, and then she can only wear it for 2 months. So the main color is going to be this light gray, and this is Dove Heather. I actually have Dove Heather in a number of Knit Picks bases, one of my go-tos. And then this is her rainbow. I can't even hold all this yarn. I am not going to use all of these skeins, but I just didn't have the right tones that would all go together to use scraps. So I went ahead and got it, and then I figured I'll put this in my scraps and use it. So these are the first ones, and then there's more. So I've got red. It's coming off orange, but I promise you it's a red color. This one is called orange, so very obviously named. This one is called Canary. Then I have Pea Pod, which is it's a bit lighter than it's showing up, at least on my screen. And then the last two are Marina, which is a little bit more teal than it's coming off on my screen, and Freesia. I know it's a flower. I've never been able to pronounce it, but it's less cool toned than it's coming off here. It's a little bit brighter. So I'm trying to hold all these up, and I absolutely cannot. What is this? All this yarn. And like I said, and I have four balls of this. I am not going to use all of these colors. I'll probably use like I don't know, just a tiny bit of these colors, but it'll be good because I can add this to my stash, and then when I'm making baby garments for other people or other color work for people that I want to have something that's washable, I will have plenty of acrylic for that. So I don't mind. I actually really love Brava. It feels amazing for acrylic yarn, so can't necessarily go wrong. Okay, so that is everything that I have. If you've made it this far and you've watched me, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it, and I very much hope that you enjoyed it. If you have questions about anything that I don't have links for, please drop them in the comments, and like I said, I'll try to put links for everything. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope that I will see you in the next Flosstube video.